It's 3 o'clock, so why don't we go ahead and start our meeting? This is the May 21st session of the HB 412 Homeless Advisory Meeting. Welcome, everybody. And we'll go ahead and start doing our roll call. My name is David Giels. I am chair of this group, and also on my day job, I'm the behavioral health director at Coos Health and Wellness.
Drew Farmer, Coos County Commissioner. That's my day job now too.
Nicole Rutherford, I'm the city manager here at Coos Bay, so one of the Coos Bay representatives.
Christina Teixeira, grant coordinator for the city of Coos Bay.
Thank you for keeping us together, Christina. Do we have anybody else online?
Doesn't look like
Right.
it.
So we don't have a quorum,
Yeah.
which means we can't vote on anything, but I don't think necessarily our intention was to vote on anything, but we can
Well, potentially,
Oh.
yeah, would want to,
make a motion potentially, you're right?
yeah, make recommendation.
All right. So
Who
that-
else is on now?
Well, Councilor Kilmer,
Mhm.
and then North Bend's representative, Warren, he may be out this week. Yes, okay, and then no, Sharon.
also from North Bend.
I can call Stephanie. She sent me messages over the weekend. I'll make her pay me back.
Okay, so with that, let's go ahead and we'll move on to agenda item 2A, which is funding update. And we should have in our packets the current state of funding. Again, just to reiterate, this group has had some responsibility at this point for 4 funding streams. The first is HB 4123. That was the initial funding that funded this office. And we have about $133,000 left in that grant. And we're currently not spending much of any of it because most of it was to support the office and we have no staff. So that 133 has been flat and stayed that way, and it probably, at least unless we make a different decision, will continue to stay that way. Then we have HB 5019. That's the 5019. That's the next pot of money we got. That was to help fund 8 shelter beds and 32 households rehousing, 32 rehousing homes. And we have about 1.447 million left on that. We spent around just under 500,000. And I believe we have an expenditure end date end of June in that funds. Then we also have some responsibility for the ORI, what we call ORI, Senate Bill 5701. And that's for the 32 households rehoused. And we have spent around 400,000 of that, with a balance of 565,000. And that one is primarily, I think, administered by AYA as the primary one that has used that funding. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, is that through 27? Is that when it's supposed to be expended by it?
You can cover rent.
Okay, so mostly it's got to be off the books though by end of June as well. And then the last grant that we have some responsibility for is the YEHA, or Youth Emergency Housing Assistance. And we've not started to draw that down, and we have a little bit longer sunset period for that grant. So, and then I would just point out that the county administers HB 4123. And the other 3, the 5019, ORI and YEHA, are Coos Bay is the intermediary for those 3 grants.
Is that roll over or disappear? You say in June and you all those.
Yeah, we can get into this. We'll get into some of those details as well. But yeah, they all have expiration dates that we have to kind of be accountable for and manage. But that's an overview for the board. Any questions as to those gross numbers?
Councilor Kilmer has joined.
Oh,
online.
welcome, Councilor Kilmer. Good to see you.
Sorry about that.
No, we're just glad you're here. We did not have a quorum, so if we needed to vote on somebody, we would have been up a creek. I'll put it that way.
Well, I checked 15 minutes ago because I knew I had to be getting close and then I got into something and completely spaced off rejoining. Sorry about that.
No worries. Let's see. I am going to go ahead and move item 4. We're going to talk about that first, which is the response office updates, and then we'll go back to the project updates under number 3. So just to kind of remind folks where we are with the office updates, and I think I said this earlier, we don't have any staff at this point. We've not hired anybody. And I think at this point, we had most recently talked about potentially just leaving it that way. We have not had enough funds to really hire anybody for any length of time to operate. We have met our contractual requirements under the requirements of 4123, so we're not obligated to staff the office anymore. As a practical update, we have the county went ahead and we took back all the equipment, the computers. I think we had 3 laptops, a couple cell phones, some owls, the owl devices for recording, and some of those things. So those all belong to the office. So they're all shared equipment between the 3 entities, North Bend, Coos Bay, and the county, but it felt safer to hold on to them and not just leave them at the Newmark Center unattended. So the offices in the Newmark Center are still there. The label is still on the door, but there's no equipment in it and there's no staff in it at this point. We have removed the main telephone number. The emails are all now coming to me with a forward on them. So if something does come, I will go ahead and get those and I can take any action that's necessary. But essentially our profile and we're also on the city website as well as the county website in terms of our this meeting and those things. So we're still operating in that way. So that's how it stands. And unless we decide differently, that's how it will continue to stand. So I'm sorry. This is there will be a time for public comments, but this is not that time yet. So any other questions from the board about the updates?
I don't think so.
I think it makes sense. Our intent, I think we've discussed, is we received the money to stand up the office and I look for who wants to carry it the rest of the way, because there are other agencies that do this professionally.
And we may want to, after our discussion today with the other, where we are with the grants, we may want to come back and just revisit where we are as a group. You know, there had been some discussion about how long we would continue to operate as an entity. And it probably depends a little bit about what we do with some of the funding in these areas too. So, you know, there was some discussion about, you know, I think the county had approved $400,000 to the Salvation Army for Hope Village. Hope Village doesn't look like it's going to be happening, at least under our authority. So what happens with that $400,000, whether it comes back to the office or whether it gets designated otherwise, might also impact our decision making. We do have some oversight. We had some oversight responsibilities for these other grants, but they're really administered by the city of Coos Bay. So I don't know if this group really has any authority over those things. It would appear not, I would say. I don't know if you have an opinion about that, Nicole.
I mean, there is a benefit for this layer when we consider that first grant, which was kind of a coordinated effort, of course. And, you know, we've built some muscle here. So there's also that benefit of carrying that, you know, forward some. But it also adds a layer of complication when we have folks who want to, you know, potentially come forward and ask for funding. It's like they have to come here and they have to go to the actual governing body who would be dispersing the funds. So that's the piece that I think maybe isn't necessary moving forward. And then June 30, theoretically, will kind of be shortening up all of those funding pots anyways. So I'm also cognizant of the fact that we've asked the city staff and added another layer to kind of support this board, which is great in this interim, but long-term, I don't know that that's a, viable solution. So.
And it doesn't appear that, and I think at one point, there may have been some thought that this board would have to have some approval in future grant opportunities, but I've heard nothing of that as a requirement for if there's any new money that's coming through the legislature. So we've not been assigned any official role, I don't think.
Yeah.
So that makes sense. Yeah. Okay. All right, so I guess that's it for item 4, the response office updates. Maybe we could just touch base after closer to the end of the meeting and see if there's any other comments related to that. So we'll go ahead and move to the
Good timing.
project updates. Let's see where we are. Was there a 3A? What is a 3A? Is there a 3A? Or am I missing 3A?
Maybe
Or is that just the pilot?
it is, it's in there right after,
Yeah.
kind of
Yeah,
right after the
yeah.
financials. On the backside of the financials.
It's
At the
gonna be a little
end.
Farther,
Couple
there's a
more.
couple pages.
Oh, so it's 3A after 3B? Is that why I'm struggling?
No, right there.
Oh, I see. It's just twice. All right. Thank you. All right, so we want to start with 3A. That makes sense, Nicole, since we want to move around it all. So
Well, I think what we've done in this section is, whichever organizations have shown up to, if they had updates, they've just come up and shared where they're at, and would appear we have AYA and Salvation Army here. I think Salvation Army has a request beyond just an update, but.
So why don't we start maybe with the one that we don't necessarily have to take action with. Let's start with AYA, if you're okay with that, Scott. Give us a.
I speak for them because I don't know what they're gonna request.
Oh,
This is an update. Is this a HB?
so I guess maybe that is the best way to do it. So 3A is the office of,
I think it's updates from anybody present.
letters 3B, which is the outreach proposal.
Yeah, but we're doing a proposal. So I can do an update too, if you'd like.
Oh, these are on all 4 grants.
Right, so all of the organizations
I
that
see.
currently have a project funded.
Okay. All right.
And I wasn't here for last month. Did we discuss potentially the request that we made to OHCS for the shelter change?
We did
Yeah,
talk.
Okay,
We did talk about that. We did talk about, since it seemed at that time that Hope Village was not going to be able to meet our project, to meet the requirements, there was a discussion with Scott about an alternate proposal.
okay, I just want to
and
make sure
potential-
we walked through that process for, approving that modification.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. So hey, Scott, if you're okay, why don't we start with you and then,
Sure.
and then we can move on to the Salvation Army.
Testing 1, 2, 3. We're good. Normally I give you a quick update on some boots on the ground, so I'll be quick on that one. Last week we had somebody that was in a DV situation, moved out of Medford, ended up homeless here, 3 children and a grandmother of the children. Put them in transitional housing, and within 2 weeks, they signed a lease yesterday. We used the spa money. We got them in. So just always a boots on the ground story. With that, we want to say and I use the word spa, let me rephrase myself, 5019. 5019, we've gone over 10% over our contractual agreements. We are at 36 right now with them. And it is successfully completed. The ORI, known as 5701, we are complete with 32 on those as well. We're still working through some paperwork. Enjoyable to work with the city as far as the state reporting and things like that. Always a little bit challenging, but they always are. And then last time I told you I'd come back with some actual monies on how successful we are. So right now, we've managed to have 17 houses that are clearly going to be able to sustain themselves, moving past this 1-year grant funding. They will be independent, leases are in their names, and they should be able to sustain the housing that we had gotten them into. 7 of them are clear. We're working with the landlords and working with them to help support them somewhere else. They do not have enough income to support where we got them in after a year. So those numbers were a little bit better than I was expecting. The remaining continue to get funding moving forward. Remember, we brought on 5 a quarter, 5 a quarter, 5 a quarter. They're going to let us do a drawdown and move forward. But just left a meeting with the staff and we went back and forth on numbers. 25% of the clients not being able to continue to move forward in the housing that we got them is the number that we still feel comfortable with some numbers to actually back that up. I will say that we've been successful with 90% of the ones that we managed to get trailers. They can afford their lots. The problem is, as we all know, is the price of housing in this town and how that affects them. So that is it. Both grants have been clearly, the drawdown. 2 parts to the drawdown. We have fulfilled the bucket obligations for the rapid rehousing part of it. We clearly see what our drawdowns are going to be moving forward. We'll be reporting to state to get that last final check. And that leads us back into Hope Village, and whether that money can be moved, and that one's of my pay grade, sitting at OHCS, not even the city at this point, I believe.
Yeah, I mean, so. Let's let's talk a little bit about the rehousing stuff and the money that maybe, Nicole, if you want to update us kind of over OHCS is. So I guess if there's any questions from the board around the rehousing numbers and kind of where we are around that. I had a couple, so just to clarify in my mind, so we're above for the 5019, we're above the number of rehousing that we were supposed to be at.
By 10%.
And it looks like we'll draw down most of the money that we anticipated drawing down.
We will draw down all the money.
All that, okay. And then for the Ori, a similar situation for that as well?
That one and I've been saying this since the beginning, we are spent by about $200,000. We believe that we have the ability to support. We've got a lot of wiggle room with the YEHA money. So it's it's written up very similarly with a little bit more room. So it's kind of going to backfill some of the stuff we're hoping.
And then I think and then your follow-up was just around what happens. That was a discussion last time too, is just what happens to these families that we've been supporting. And then sort of, now that funding may not be available, what does that mean for these families? And so it sounds like you've worked with your crew about how to best.
Clearly identified 7 that it is going to be a problem. And we not only have to continue to work with those families in one capacity or another, but also the landlords. That is a huge portion of this, because as we continue to try to serve this population, it's important to have those relationships with the property management companies, something other agencies might have had problems with in the past. Not to point out anybody.
Was that
Was that a dig? I think that was
No, just a reminder of my poor choices.
But having that community work together to serve this population is very important. So it is that we just said, okay, well, our funding's done. Now these people are going to take 90 days to be kicked out. We are actively working to try to do something at this point, because we're down to 45 days on 7 people.
Yeah, and some of them have had support really since the get-go, since the start too, right?
Yeah, and I think those numbers show that more successful than when I reported last time. I really thought it was going to be a higher number. Remember that 16 of them will continue to get funding for another almost up to a year, because a few of them just went on recently.
Right.
And that's all going to be a drawdown.
And I assume all those individuals and families that were eligible would be on housing lists and some of the other long-term opportunities. If they're eligible.
One of the first things we do when we get these clients in, let's sign you up for Section 8, HUD, let's take you down to Orca. Making sure that they're all on the list so that we're working every angle as soon as we get them. That's case management.
Thanks, Scott. So then the other part here, right, is so in our planning, we had also allocated what, about $800,000 of this for the shelter portion, which originally we had hoped that it would be Salvation Army's Hope Village project. They were not able to meet the timeframes necessary according to the grant. So I think, we were looking at sort of, is there a last minute option that we could put in place? And I think it was in part up to OHCS Office of Oregon Housing and Community Services about whether we could come up with a proposal that they would be okay with. And I don't know, Nicole, if you have a report on whether that looks as like an option or not.
I'd love to say that I have feedback from them one way or the other, but I don't. I did send them another email this week. We're on a tight time frame, and if we have to pull the trigger on an acquisition, a governmental acquisition from a governmental sale, like that's not something that happens quickly. So the feedback was they're still working it through the higher levels. So, and acknowledged the short timeline, but not an
You forward
answer.
me the last email you had with them.
Yep.
We just discussed this with the commissioners a little this week because you were looking at buying a particular property, if I remember right.
Yes.
Making it a win-win for everybody.
I'd very much like to see you get that property because you have the highest success rate, I think. So.
Yeah. So I think it just needs either some elevation or, I don't know, just for them to understand, like, we're down to 6 weeks and that's a big lift to just acquire, let alone stand
Is
up.
it even doable in 6 weeks?
There's ways we can, maybe talk about, we could get the dollars, knowing like the drawdown, we're going to spend it afterwards for the
Right.
rent. So we get the dollars in our hands and begin a contractual obligation with
Right.
the property owners, maybe set up escrow, all of the things that will get us towards that.
I'll
Could
nudge a
definitely
couple
start.
legislators because this is a situation I've been in with OHCS before. So.
And we did have the director attended the housing summit and was very much in support of the project. So it may just be like a reminder at the highest level that, this is the project we talked about when you were
Right.
here.
Right.
There's
Okay.
just really great gatekeepers there. So yeah.
So we are waiting from OHCS as a definitive yay or nay.
Yes.
And we can't really move forward. We're pretty sure that the funding deadline would not be extended. Is that? I assume it maybe was written in the legislative.
Yeah,
act initially.
that it
Maybe
needs
that's
to be
why it's
spent. They need it
enough.
out of their control by
Yeah.
June 30. So
Okay.
that's where I would land with, we would ask for those funds if we know we're not going to actually be able to spend them, but we have movement and we could spend them, say,
Right.
on, July 20th. We'd want to get those dollars from them.
And then do we feel like, Scott, do you feel like if OHCS did give us the blessing, you guys would continue to try to want to move forward in this direction?
Yeah, I almost thought one of the avenues was to move forward with the county on some things in contingents, but even if it falls through, AYA would still continue to try to purchase that in other means. So maybe if we continue to move paperwork forward with a positive attitude and then it just starts to happen. So we did AYA worked with the county. We did get the people that were housed there out. I just got a bill on that. So
Nice.
yeah, so we're continuing to move, even though it's slowed at OHCS. We don't stop working. We just keep moving forward.
And they secured permanent housing before they got out, so that was particularly nice.
Yeah.
There were only a couple of folks there, right? There
Not
wasn't-
many, yeah, it was a family,
Okay.
so we wanted to make sure they had somewhere to live before we told them they had to get out.
Yeah.
Don't want to make more homeless people in the process of trying to alleviate homeless.
But it does have it has an opportunity to really make the maximum use of that space too,
Yep.
right? So.
Yeah, it can do a lot.
I'd also like to throw out one other success story. For 3 weeks, we got to what they call a functional zero in homelessness with youth. Exactly what that definition means seems to be questionable, but it is a goal that we're trying to put on here to get enough units that we can say when it comes to youth or families, we are at a functional zero in our county. I think that'll speak wonders at the state level to say that we actually hit that mark.
I'm sure everybody knows what functional zero is. Can you give us that?
No, I just said I'm not sure about the definition. I've been
Oh.
asking. But anybody that crosses our desk, we manage to find housing for within a week.
Hopefully I'm not incorrect, but I believe what they usually mean by functional zero is you basically have a space available for everybody who needs it, whether they're using it or not, maybe, but you have a place for everybody that might come into the system needing some housing assistance.
That is the goal.
Okay.
And that's going to take more units, obviously, that we're trying to work towards.
Right.
But and the 1 week time is because a lot of times we have to do background checks and stuff like that, just to make sure there's no person to person or warrants or anything like that. So the system does take a lot of time to process through.
Anything else for Scott?
You,
All right. And I'm sure if we get a positive from OHCS, Nicole will let us all know that.
Yes.
That you guys got an okay.
We'll stand out on the front there and shout it out to the world.
Can I make a suggestion?
Sure.
Get myself in trouble. We've done a lot of great work here and there's taken a long time to iron out some of the problems. A lot of these grants are bigger than a small company like AYA can go for. Having the city packing's been really nice. Saying the cities, the 2 cities in the county, and even if this doesn't stay a formal board, maybe a committee, and saying that we are still working collaboratively. David, we'd love to continue to see you on this. But that would give the area, both the county and the city, some recognition on the work that's being done. I know AYA is not going to stop, but we would like to work in collaboration with an entity much larger than ourselves. It actually helps things to move forward.
A good suggestion, Scott. I mean, I think, if we don't function as a body to try to put the energy, as you said too, Nicole, some of the things that we have been able to accomplish and get forward, if we can move that to other entities that are involved in the same work, it might be helpful. And I know a lot of this, we've all worked on issues related to housing. So thank you for that. All right, Salvation Army, I don't know if you guys want to, if you're organized in a certain way to talk to us, or I just invite you all to come and give your updates and recommendations.
Go ahead.
Well, it's a pleasure to be here today, and I apologize that I don't think I've been before your group in now 2 years. Not because of a lack of desire. And I can assure you that I have been working behind the scenes, although with the Salvation Army. I wanted to talk just a little bit about 2 programs, one project, one program. The first is the program of the Salvation Army's outreach program, and the second will be the project of Hope Village. While I haven't been here, I do know that one of your key objectives is in your strategic plan is to foster partnerships between local governments, partnerships with nonprofits and other service organizations to address needs, which includes housing and other services to those facing homelessness, and I think those that are on the cusp of being homeless. Based on the recent conversations at the Salvation Army's advisory board, I think it's clear that the Salvation Army's outreach program, which is providing services to those 2 groups, is a strong example of that objective in action. And they were very clear at our meeting yesterday, this is not a sole project of the Salvation Army, but it's in partnership with many different organizations to provide services. In addition, what I believe is unique about the program is they're taking the services to the homeless and those about to be homeless, instead of using the approach that we saw in the past about a centralized location where people are going to get services. That puts barriers on those that need services. But as we all learned, the painful lesson, it puts impacts on the community where that services is being offered. While your strategic plan did focus and prioritize a housing first approach, and while the Salvation Army began a process to be part of that solution with the transitional housing of Hope Village, it's painfully evident that the process to get there and to get there before the legislative deadline is not possible. Even though it has very strong support within the Salvation Army, various levels of the organization. It is a multi-level organization that, unfortunately, we can't make the decisions right here. It also involves divisional headquarters, which is in Portland and oversees all of the Salvation Army units in Oregon and portion of Idaho, but it also requires territorial support, which is the 13 Western states out of LA. There is extremely strong support. The problem was really about an accounting issue, is they couldn't adequately spend the money in time to meet the legislative deadline. And the Salvation Army is not willing to put itself at risk for not spending the money correctly. Despite that, there is a very strong push to continue on, even without the funding through 4123. I think I've got that. Yeah, 4123. Major Harvey, the divisional commander for the Cascade Division, has already made appointments to meet with the advisory board in June and July, and then to hold another meeting with stakeholders as they continue to push forward. Hope Village is going to happen. It's just not going to happen within the deadline. I would share that in our efforts to date, we've spent well over $165,000 in design and design other professional services like geotech towards this project, which would not only include Hope Village, but it was the kitchen at the Salvation Army facility in Empire, which would be needed to feed those residents. Well, the kitchen's still needed. Hope Village is going to happen. But we think that there's another opportunity here. And that is to further support the outreach services. I'd like to make a proposal for your consideration that of the $480,000 that was put towards this project, that you might consider using $240,000 of that to provide and enhance the outreach services and referrals for individuals facing or experiencing homelessness and those at that are on the cusp, and then to use the other $240,000 to reimburse the Salvation Army for professional services previously rendered, which will be beneficial for the realization of Hope Village, and to fund the kitchen remodel, which will support food delivery for the outreach program. Now, I believe Majors can speak a little bit more in depth about the outreach program to give you some ideas on how they're providing those services and not only the scope, but the numbers that they're serving.
Afternoon, everyone. It's nice to meet with you. Appreciate you hearing us out. Roger is here to represent continuity of service for the Salvation Army. Major Aaron and myself are on orders to move. We've been reassigned to Seattle, Washington to take over for all the social service operations going on up there. And we're never mind. I'll just get into the thing. I was going to make a comment. We're not happy to leave, but we're happy to be of service there. So needless to say, I'm going to share a little bit about the connections. If you in your meeting minutes, we have a page that looks like this one. This is the overview of agencies we're currently working with right now. We're already engaged in the outreach services. It was built around the perspective that we were going to use some of the HB 5019 money. We were going to use approximately 600,000 for construction, and the 150,000 remainder was going to be used for outreach. And we were ready to go. We already hired people and we were on the ground. But Coos Health and Wellness, Southern Oregon Coast Regional Housing Authority, Coos Curry Housing Authority, Bay Area First Step, ADAPT. You see the list there. There's some other ones that you don't see on here, like City of Coos Bay Police Department, City of North Bend Police Department. We're formulating a plan that's already in place by a group called Connections. Who they are is it's a conglomeration of organizations here. It's Coos Health and Wellness, HIV Alliance, ADAPT,
Is the big one.
ADAPT, Bay Area First Step, and South Coast Gospel Mission. They're the ones that kind of set it up, but it was a real loose configuration. We've stepped in and we've already harnessed some of the energy, and we're trying to focus it on regular meetings. We've been to a weekly meeting since we started, and we're also trying to help with some of the organizational structure. That too is included in your agenda, some of the places we're going and some of the ways these agencies interact is kind of, it's loose. And I'm not saying that it's bad. I'm just saying that we're going to bring a little more structure to it so that it's consistent. That's one of the things we're going to do. We're also going to bring in, there's currently no data collection by any of these agents on who they are meeting with, what the services they're providing. So we're going to start the data collection on HMIS to bring all this information into a purview that you can all draw down from. There's also some continuity issues. For instance, let's say we go and we give out food to, unless we give blankets and food to a person, well, someone else, another agency comes out right behind us and gives out the same sort of thing. We're going to try and help with some of the overlap of giving out the same services to everybody. Also, some accountability in that will be provided through HMIS, so we can see what services are provided to people, including, if you want to get down to the nitty gritty, that they were given social service helps, including hygiene kits, blankets, all that stuff. You don't you calculate it in one box, but it means the same thing. So there will be some data collection in regard to that. That's, in a nutshell, what we're trying to do is strengthen continuity, organization, and data collection.
Yeah. So we've been doing this for about a month now. Connections has been going on for a couple years, and it has been kind of loose, going out to Lakeside, Powers, Charleston. They're starting out in Reedsport, North Bend, Coos Bay, at Myrtle Point. But it's not real consistent. Some days one group may go, some days the other group may go. And what we're trying to help them is establish that your yes means yes and your no means no. If you're going to, if you said you're going to show up, we're going to show up, and we're all going to figure out who's doing what, and who's passing out what supplies, especially with the health department, if they're doing vaccinations, and if HIV Alliance is doing checking for STDs. And the same thing with some of the bigger asks, like hotel vouchers. If one of the churches is paying for a hotel voucher and then someone else does, there's no record of that. So some of the same people are receiving 20% of the people are receiving 80% of the help. So our goal is, and we do have a new Mercedes Sprinter that we've been going out, which is a mobile office that has a desk and warmers and everything else. It's just to bring everybody together for one purpose, and moving forward. Tomorrow, there's a meeting to find out how do we advertise for these events, because there's been no formal, it's all been word of mouth. Establishing a Facebook page so people can go on the Facebook page and where are they going to be next Wednesday, where are they going to be next Thursday, so that our homeless community, and even some of those, like we shared about, we have energy assistance from the Energy Fund. We may run into someone that hasn't had power for a month. Well, we can right then and there pay their power bills with computers and everything else in that mobile outreach unit. So it's just kind of bringing things together, bringing them all together, and sharing the importance and getting buy-in from the other agencies, that having HMIS and data collection is just, that we're at a place right now that we need it in this community, so that we can help more people. Everyone signs up through us, through the Section 8 housing and housing opportunities. So the goal is to get someone from point A to point B, and then we have a guideline on what all those points look like in between. And then walking them through it, kind of like a navigator. So that's what we are proposing today, and we anticipate this for this season and this time. While we're still working, the Salvation Army is still working for Hope Village at the Bay. But for this time in this season, so while there's not an actual brick and mortar a day resource center for our homeless population, we feel the need to go out to them.
Okay, just to kind of remind the group here, we recommended to the county to enter into a contractual relationship with the Salvation Army around Hope Village. The contract is actually not directly through us. We were a recommending body. So, you know, I think if you look at what authority we would have, it would really probably to be making a recommendation to the county about what we would think they should do or should not do. I'd also point out that regardless of the specifics, we will have to do something with a recommendation around the remaining funds either. So if it's, you know, if it's, we know we have $133,000 that's already left in our bank, we'd have to make a recommendation. But we also have this potential 480,000 as well that was designated for one purpose that isn't necessarily going to be used for that purpose. I don't know the contract details well enough, so we probably need to have the county advise us about exactly what the contract, you all may know better than, you probably know better than I do, but
I don't think that there was a contractual obligation.
Oh.
It was presented and an invoice, I think, was presented to the
that's
county
really
for the
an invoice.
acquisition of the units.
so it probably
had a
relates more
purpose.
to the motion that was made during the board meeting
Correct.
than any contractual agreement.
Mhm.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's good to know. A very loose way of doing business. But these funds were a little loose. They were. But I just say that, so just to remind us that we don't really probably have direct authority over the funds, but we do have an obligation around advisory the county.
And in the original request, I attended that meeting along with the Salvation Army, just to support that recommendation from the board, our advisory board, to the county commission.
I just wanted to thank you, David, for clarifying that. And I actually missed a point. We're actually seeking a recommendation. We're on the agenda for the county commissioners next week. And we were hoping to take a recommendation from this group for something they could consider.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So because the recommendation's already been made, there's already money that's gotten to them. The question is, does the county want to, I don't know what they would do it, because they have to spend it in the same way too. So other questions from the group, including Councilman Kilmer around the proposal, anything that people would like to ask around either the outreach or potentially Hope Village?
You said 240 for services to date. I'm forgetting what services to date.
165 is services to date. 240 would give us the remodeled kitchen. We're hoping to add hot food service to our outreach. So we're carrying with us clamshells with hot food. We've got a microwave on the unit as well, so we can warm food, take it directly out, serve right out of the unit in Myrtle, anywhere across the county.
Yeah, I know somebody will ask me what the services to date portion was.
Well, 165 was for all of that. I'm not certain how it'll split out, but the design of the 240 then would include a kitchen remodel so that we can provide these services.
Yes. So the 160 does include architectural designs. We did a
Oh, sorry.
geotechnical-
What I thought it was.
Geotechnical.
geotechnical study of the ground and just getting everything done so that we could get Hope Village done, the lines checked, the water, gas, everything checked. That was quite a process. That was a-
Reconstruction.
Reconstruction
Significant.
process.
What I thought it was gonna be. I just wanted to make sure I had
Yeah.
that on.
So 165 was the amount already spent related to the project.
Correct.
The remaining amount up to the 240 would be to put in the kitchen.
Yes.
And run the program, yep.
And then the other 240 would be for outreach services related.
On this, yes, outreach proposal.
I had a couple questions just about the outreach. I mean, I know from my other hat that most of the other entities are doing that work as a part of the behavioral health resource network. So
Mhm.
all these organizations got grant funding
Yeah.
to do this outreach, and it was really Barry a first step and Adapt that sort of put
Yeah.
together these outreach efforts. So
Yeah.
I guess I just a little bit concerned because they've been doing this for 2 years.
Mhm.
And to have another organization come in and sort of get like, all right, we're going to now, seems a little potentially problematic. I'll put it that way.
They're amenable. They seem really, we all seem to be a cooperative group. And I think they're kind of looking, this is my hunch. I think they're kind of looking for the Salvation Army to kind of step in. I might be wrong, but that was my hunch.
So I will, so I contacted both Paul and Josh and talked to them because they had a group going and we were invited to the first meeting. And we shared with them, we're not here to step on any toes. We're not here to duplicate any services that you're providing. We wanted to find out where the gaps of service are.
That's
And-
where we fit.
And providing, and this is just, again, this could just be a season, a year or two until we get the HMIS going. And this is something the Salvation Army is well versed in. And we have 2 mobile outreaches, one in Seattle and one in Portland. It's just bringing the cohesiveness and helping them to come together. The PR meeting was our idea as well. At the last monthly meeting is how are we letting our folks know that we're meeting? So Josh went to his leadership. So now we're having a meeting tomorrow to figure out what is our PR campaign going to look like? Because we're all very mindful of our neighbors and our community, and how to not scare them or offend them, just to be nice neighbors and still provide the service. And even Paul said that we've added an element of professionalism so that when we go to meetings, everybody needs to get there early now, 15 minutes early. There's a little huddle. What are you going to do? What are you going to do? And what are you going to do? And what do you have to offer? And we all just come together and provide that service for them. So this may just be a temporary thing, like I said, for now, as we move forward. But if it does become viable and sustainable, we would continue to be part of a community group.
Can I,
Yeah, I mean, I do know that there are reporting requirements, but they're not on the HIMS side. They're
Mhm.
because the money came from the Oregon Health Authority. They have a set of reporting that has nothing to do with these sort of
Mhm.
typical outcomes. So
that's the difference in HMIS. It'd
Yeah.
be available to you as well. Everybody, police department, everyone would have access to HMIS just by requesting it through the COC.
and
Can I-
this amount of if you looked at this, like how long does this buy us? How much time would we get this service? It's 240,000. Obviously, that's a limited amount. There's not clearly any funding beyond this that's necessarily identified at this point.
We're in discussions with some agencies that are seriously looking to fund this as soon as this funding expires. Okay.
We
So
spoke
there's,
with, Judith and Morgan, they're just letting us know if we can apply for the big grant and with the training in June 3rd for their. So we met with them 2 weeks ago to see if we qualify to be a grant submitter, and they seem very supportive. They wanted to bring it to their board.
they mentioned apply for the big one, not the little.
Yeah, the big one. So that we're talking to other people as well, but again, with the investment from this funding, it could prove viable again and sustainable and much needed. So this would be for a year to answer your question,
The
a 12-month period.
direct assistance to clients is on the budget page for your handout. And direct service to clients, we're looking at doing things like we're fitting in where we're needed. We're going to do laundry vouchers, and we're trying to figure out a way to pick up people's laundry. The closest place to get it done is
Florence.
Florence, and bring it back and deliver it back to the people and vouchers. We're going to do transportation vouchers. We're going to get people to their appointments at Coos Health and Wellness and et cetera through, I'm sorry,
And housing as far as rental assistance.
and housing assistance to apply, get in.
You said the nearest laundry is Florence?
No. for
If you know one, we'll certainly talk to them. Who's that?
Bug Simon Alonso on the Devereaux board.
Excellent. We'll
Simon
do
owns
that.
a bunch
He
of
does-
laundromats.
Does he?
We're
Oh,
looking for poundage.
yeah, we were going to send the bag over and like just like the
Yeah.
hotel.
Oh, he will, wonderful.
They don't want to do the laundry. They just
Yeah,
want
we-
to do it right.
Well, he makes his dad wash one of the facilities. I'll make him do the laundry.
But it's even things like, you know, laundry cards for folks to go do
Yeah.
laundry.
They can go to
Right.
Mr. Alonso's.
Yeah,
Just basic Lyft rides, getting them gift cards for
I just
Lyft.
volunteer him for stuff.
That's
I mean,
great.
it is
He
true.
just got on the hospital board.
Hey,
Yeah, he just won that election.
they got a laundry facility.
I know, right?
They could
The mill does
use some
too.
money.
I know, we were thinking of approaching them. We just know it'd be a challenge for them.
Any
David?
other questions for the summer? Stephanie?
You actually asked the question that I had. I guess the other question that I would,
Stephanie, I think you're still muted on one end.
Yeah, she knows,
have
we've been
Simon's
having this
number?
every meeting.
Huh?
I'm unmuted.
I know, I've
Can you
never
hear
seen his
me?
name. He used to be the chair, right?
Test, test,
Yeah,
test,
yeah, vice
test.
chair.
Let me
Vice
know if
chair.
you can hear
I've seen
me.
his name.
Check, 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 check,
Are you sure you're public? You can't give out his phone.
check, 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 check. Mic
Right.
check.
I'm
Oh,
not gonna
thank
tell
you.
you
Test
be-
1, 2.
Oh, he'd be getting
I
lost.
can see stuff moving, but
it.
can
went
you
to
hear
school
me
with my
yet?
baby brother. I don't know when the kid sleeps.
Check, check, check.
He's got too much going.
Stephanie, you can hear us. They're trying to fix the technical difficulties I assume it's on our end.
Yeah, I can hear you.
And again, we're
Check,
really just
check.
finding the gaps right now, kind of
Check,
observing.
check. Mic check. 1,
Yeah,
2.
yeah, I'm pretty familiar with this group.
Yeah,
So
Test,
I,
test,
you know,
test.
I've been in some meetings where they've talked about what they do.
Yeah.
And I know that they've done a great job of trying to do outreach, especially to these
Yeah.
communities where there's not a lot of services.
Yep.
And
Yep.
I think
Myrtle
they-
Point, Lakeside. they're doing fantastic.
I think they've
Oh, yeah.
tried to target those, and
Mic check. 1, 2.
great concept.
they do not have any place, they don't bring any resources with them around housing or.
Check, check. 1, 2. Mic check. Now I lost audio altogether. No audio. Mic check. 1, 2, 3. Can't hear. Lost sound. Check 1, 2. Check, 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 check. Can you hear me now? Mic check.
When's your last day here?
Test 1,
June
2,
29th.
3.
Okay, well, that's soon.
Yeah, June 29th, Sunday, June 29th, we're doing church services and then we're gonna open the gym to a big event. You're all invited. Love to see you there if you're in town.
Well, you said that that's how it's like being in the army, right? You could just be called upon at any time. You're now.
We were one place. We were one,
Mic check 1, 2.
it's 10 months. That was it.
Testing, testing, 1, 2.
Hey there, how are you?
Testing,
She was at the.
test. 1, 2, 3, 4,
The homelessness.
Five.
Homeless response.
6, 7, 8, 9.
So just found out that one young man died in service.
Testing,
We
testing.
don't have very much information and I've known his brother-in-law for over 40 years. Just found out.
Testing, testing.
Thank you.
So,
Oh, we're just presenting.
great, yeah, because you do a lot of things with that, so it's really important.
Thanks for being.
Thing 1, 2.
Well, I'm there all the time. So
Yeah.
I'll put the dates on, it's like what we've done. And it's hard to explain to people, I said, yes, the prices are more. But you have to make money because of all the services you offer.
Food service programs to the community. It funds the food service programs to the community. Youth programs, it funds all that.
That's why I'm shopping on Sundays.
Yeah, all right, good.
See you next Sunday.
I think so, that'll be good.
Check 1, 2.
Do you hear us yet?
Yeah.
Yes? Okay, can you just put
Mike.
it in the chat?
Or call us.
I'm not seeing a chat.
You were texting her. Can
Where's
you
the
put it on
camera?
Speakerphone, Commissioner Drew,
Oh, yeah.
and then put it up to the mic.
Can't you do it through Zoom? Isn't there a call-in option?
She can call in through Zoom. Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know if that's a possibility, Stephanie, if you have the invite, usually there's a way to call in.
Thank you, Roger.
I can just call her, it's quicker.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Yeah.
Can.
Oh, wow. Okay, just one of the, I might have forgotten the question I had now. Too much time, too much time had passed. But I guess, I love the continuity, component that you talked about in bringing continuity to this transition that the Salvation Army will be going through. How locally, how is it being received as far as moving forward if this recommendation from this group was to move forward to the county commission? The new folks that will be taking your place, are they behind this as well?
The divisional commander, sorry,
Oops,
Major,
nope, I'm doing this wrong. There you go.
Major Jonathan Harvey, he's already established meetings with the advisory board, Roger and the advisory board for June 17th. And then on July 2nd, he's coming down, the new officers, I'm sorry, July 8th, he'll be here with the new officers. They'll be meeting with the advisory board. And then they'll be meeting with stakeholders, local stakeholders, to discuss Hope Village and anything else that you want to bring up for the major's attention.
Okay, and then the other comment, more of a comment than anything, having worked in similar situations where we have things happening, let's say a toy drive that were happening simultaneously in our community, I can say that the Salvation Army was the first organization that I had worked with that really understood we can do more when we collaborate, but also when we keep the information and we know what everyone else is doing so that we can make those dollars go farther that we have. So they are good stewards with the funding, and we have been able to clearly see that as they have moved forward with this project. I love the fact that, you know, from a counselor's perspective, we've been through some situations in the recent past where trying to have everybody meet us or meet the organization that was providing those services created quite a strain in the community. I love that this goes out to the communities outside of just one particular area and meets the needs of the individuals where they are, rather than trying to get them in one location. But I think it's a good approach. I hope that there, as David, when he mentioned that, you know, maybe loose isn't good sometimes, but maybe we can put some language in there that secures that we're moving forward on the more long-term use of these funds that will probably be better as we approach the state in using these funds. But I think it's a great process. I've worked with the Kaufmans, the majors, and I have worked with others in the past. I think this is a great idea.
Can I just add to that? The Salvation Army does try to put people in positions that are able to take it to the next level. Our job here was to take the Salvation Army kind of out of the COVID mindset and get the programs back running to pre-pandemic times, and then to build on those programs and see what else we could do in the community. The next people that are coming in, we've been assured that they're going to carry on and even grow to the programs into what they need to be. So we've been given that assurance, and our divisional commander wants to continue Hope Village, and he made sure that whoever's coming is going to also move those along and that they have the skill set and abilities.
Makes true. I just wonder if there's any other comments or thoughts about this. If we're gonna make a recommendation, we kind of need to parse out what that recommendation would be to the county. I might just suggest that, at least from my perspective, I would certainly feel comfortable recommending that, obviously the county's gonna have to look at potentially what to do with this funding that's already been allocated. And I think, I feel comfortable saying I would support the recommendation of moving, the 240,000 to looking at this outreach effort. But I think it's up to me, it's up to the county a little bit about what they want to do with the remaining amount. We've already made a recommendation. They're not able to fulfill it in the way that we come. So to me, that's a little bit maybe not in the same scope of it. I mean, I wouldn't feel making a recommendation to the county about what to do in that regard, because we already made the recommendation, the horses out of the barn. So I feel like the county should make a sense of what they want to do about that, or what they're allowed to do, regardless of what we say. But I don't know if other board members feel differently about that, but that's kind of what comes to my mind, is I feel like comfortable, like we could say, we would certainly support, a reallocation of $240,000 that's basically not been spent to this outreach effort. I mean, I think to me, that's a clear, easy recommendation. And then we could also just say, we recommend that the board consider what makes the most sense to do around the allocation of the other portion, and leave it sort of open-ended for the commissioners. And, if the county wants more clarification about that, I mean, we had this meeting, and we could invite ourselves if they wanted to ask us more questions. But I don't know. I don't know if you all feel differently about that as well.
We already have a meeting set up with y'all to consider, I think, so, on the commission side. As far as crafting anything specific, I'm not sure that's needed. Scott, you were gonna ask for something too, weren't you? This was on the same pool of money, wasn't it?
It's for work on the Maloney Ranch and to continue some of those deficits that we have right now. We've also for over a year had an 8-bedroom house that we originally said AYA would eat it, so that, excuse me, the informal language, go forward without funding, because Hope Village we thought was a wonderful idea. We totally supported that. Moving forward, this is kind of something completely different.
I think though, you bring up a good point, right? I think that is the struggle that I also would have is, by doing it this way, by making a recommendation without considering other organizations, are we doing really the right thing or not? Or are we saying, well, the fund's already been allocated, and then let's just look at reallocating it?
Yeah, and we talked a little bit when you guys came with this proposal. It's a little different when you're asking for funds, that there's a clear goal and steps and processes to get there. But when you're saying you gave us this money and we want to use it towards this end goal, which is still yet to be realized, we talked about them maybe not seeing that as clearly as the outreach piece. So I do think you get closer if you're tying that kitchen really tightly to being able to prepare the meals to the extent you would need to for the outreach piece. But it just felt like the architectural, all of that for this piece it's still on the horizon. Yeah.
Yeah, that it could lead into a permanent program is also.
Mm-hmm. But I
don't think
agree.
there's any wrong suggestion on this, but it's gonna take deliberation between the three of us at the commission, I think, because like I said, there is no wrong answer here. The money wasn't expected to be available to be spent on any of these programs, because it was gonna be spent on something else. So,
And that was our hope.
yeah.
And I don't know what the ask would be from AYA, but we still have $133,000 that we've got to figure out too. So.
Yeah, there is the additional funds. I mean, that we will have, if we don't spend it from the office, we will have to allocate it somewhere. But I would assume if we did that, we would look at a process, right? That entities could approach us in a way that we could be equitable about how we deliberate on those things. So, yeah.
we appreciate your time and your thought, all you're giving to it, and we, just the consideration alone of thinking of how we could be a part of outreach and possibly a kitchen, we appreciate it.
Yeah, I already know
And
more.
that, David, that is really what I was saying as well.
Say again?
Stephanie's trying to talk.
Stephanie.
Oh, one sec.
Okay.
For it.
David, that is really what I was trying to say when I think we were talking about having some language in an agreement for the other portion.
Can you expand?
Oh, shit, that was hand up.
Oops.
Oh, I do that all the time, Alan, but
I think she was, and I hate to put words in her mouth. She was saying like, okay, the outreach makes good sense. But if you want to use it for the other thing, there's needs to be some contractual kind of obligation to, you know, the realization of the Hope
that's a
Village.
good idea. I think that'll bring,
I was done talking to you. Okay.
Sorry, I made this so complicated. That is exactly what I was saying. And Nicole, why should you be any different than anyone putting words in my mouth?
Well, a little different. You have a higher level of authority from me, so I wouldn't want to put words in your mouth, but.
So help me understand. I'm not sure I completely understand I want
What?
to.
Yeah, again, I don't want to speak for Stephanie, but what I think she was saying is the outreach is clearly just a program that you could sponsor, pay,
Right.
support. This other 240 is tied to 160,000-ish that was spent on pre-construction costs
Right.
for a project which doesn't have funding yet. So there's this horizon of realization, uncertain date, date not certain yet. Along with tagging in the kitchen, which would benefit the outreach. So that piece feels like it needs to have some sort of contractual obligation that if it's not realized, the Salvation Army comes back with something, repayment. I don't know, just the county may want to say, we're going to fund this with the idea that it's supporting this longer range goal.
As well as if you could get a letter from the chain of command indicating their commitment to Hope Village, it would give us a little more to look at and talk about to show that, yeah, it's not happening under this fashion, but there is a commitment to do it.
Right.
I can request that. Also, would you be willing to be at the stakeholders meeting on July 8th?
Make sure.
Yeah, I know. It's first, you're wise. Check the calendar.
And that was my concern. I know that for me, my organization, if we don't deliver on the end goal, then the other
Good,
funding we
I'll
got
add you to the
could be
invitation.
clawed back.
Yeah.
Essentially, right?
Yeah.
So
So I think that's what Stephanie's saying. Like,
Yeah.
yes, this seems great, but there needs to be something that kind of, and again, all of this is conversational at our level because this is a county commission decision.
but it does sound like we don't necessarily have a firm recommendation around that piece for the county.
I think it's fine.
But do we have a recommendation around the outreach or not? Because that, to me, I mean, it's clear in terms of what it is and the value. The only thing I would say that's a little bit, to me, not great is we have not followed a process where other entities could potentially.
Yeah, the procurement option.
Right, I mean, there's not been an opportunity for other entities to say, oh, here's something that's available that would be for everybody. I mean, I know the funding's already been allocated, and so.
That might be just a question for Holden as well, the
Mhm.
county attorney, because we could make a recommendation and then on our side to make sure it's something we can actually do. With the outreach, you mentioned that DAP does that already. I'm learning more about it, DAP, they're bigger than I thought, but my understanding historically is that they're focused on alcohol and drug.
Historically, they are.
So do they do broader outreach, or is that still their main focus and this might fill a gap?
They do, housing helps too. They do
Okay.
transitional housing and things like that. They're
Most of
a
their-
really big agency and they do. a
Most
lot
of their funding, like us, we get funding from the funding that was for Measure 110, which had to do substance abuse. So if it weren't for that substance use funding, none of us would be doing that outreach effort.
Okay.
But once you do that outreach effort, because probably 60 to 75% of the individuals have substance abuse that are homeless,
Yeah.
it really dovetails very closely. So that's why it looks broader, because they're really serving the same populations.
Yes, but
Yeah.
they do have some restrictions on who they can have there to meet the criteria.
Yes.
Well, with the political climate around 110, that can be sketchy around, be funded through.
Well, there really is no measure 110 anymore. Essentially, it's been, but the funding has been continued as a result.
It's
So-
the BHRM, right?
Burn,
The
Yes, that's the
medical marijuana.
behavioral health resource burn it's
burn.
commonly known as, yeah.
Mic check.
So are we looking for a motion that would put forth a recommendation
That
from
could
this
be-
body to the county commission?
That could be an option.
So I would make a motion that the advisory board puts forth a recommendation to support the Salvation Army's proposal for their outreach services. I'm gonna leave it at that.
Second.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? I would just add that we include the amount in the amount of $240,000. So that's
So amended.
So second.
And Counselor Kilmer, I don't know if she is still on the phone, may have to raise her hand or something for.
all right. I'll go ahead and call for a
Mic check.
vote. Nicole,
Aye.
Drew,
All right.
Counselor
Aye.
Kilmer.
Aye.
She said aye. I see.
And thumbs up.
All right.
Okay.
And I vote aye as well. So
We're all hang up on you.
motion carries. We'll make that recommendation to the county board. All right.
And do we do any language at all around the other piece of that, or just leaving that all on the counties?
I would say let's just leave the rest and the county can figure it out. Obviously, they have a representative here who can speak very clearly to our discussion as they desire. So.
Figures on everything.
All right.
And I, like I said, they might have to have county council make a description about what's allowable as well. I think we've covered our project updates. Does that sound right, Nicole? You wrote these, I think.
Yeah.
I think we have covered them.
And I think our public left.
All right, yes, I would call for any public comments if we have any. But it looks like we just have the people that have already spoken here today. And then it's time for any board comments. Drew, anything on your end? No?
Yeah.
Nicole?
I don't have any.
Counselor Kellner? Nope.
Uh,
I just want to ask one thing. We've been meeting monthly cadence. If we need to continue to meet, it may make more sense for us to meet if really we sort of have to stay in operation and we don't have a lot to do.
Yeah.
Maybe we meet in June at our regular time because there's a lot before the deadline happens. But if we're going to continue operation, I might suggest we move to every other month. If there's not a lot on our agenda, and hopefully we've wrapped up some of these things. And again, most of them are going to be on the city of Coos Bay's back around their accounting principles. So I guess I would say the other thing is you could let us know too, Nicole, if you feel we should continue to meet on a monthly basis.
I could offer an alternative, which could be we keep that monthly cadence because that's what the public knows.
Mhm.
And then we just issue a canceled meeting notice
Okay.
for the months that we aren't going to hold a meeting because we don't have anything on the agenda.
Okay.
Great.
Sounds good. All right. Well, hearing nothing else, let's conclude today's meeting. Thank you, guys.